ICQ Podcast episode 417, YouTube channels for ham radio. Well, hello and welcome fellow amateur radio enthusiasts to this, our 417th episode of the ICQ Amateur Radio Podcast, supported this episode by our monthly and annual subscription donors. In this episode we join Martin M1MRB, Chris, Mike Zero, Tango Charlie Hotel, Martin, Mike Zero, Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4, Foxtrot Mike Hotel, and Leslie, Golf Zero, Charlie India Bravo to discuss the latest amateur radio news. Myself, Colin M6BLY, rounds up the news in brief, and in this episode's feature is a look at YouTube channels for ham radio. Well, as always, it's our wonderful subscription donors, our wonderful listeners that have been with us for so long, that help us pay our way and bring this show to you advert free, and as I say, helping us pay our bills on the internet and keeping this show going for you fortnightly like we've been doing for the last 15 years. You can show your support for what we do if you find value in today's show by visiting icqpodcast.com/donate, and as I say, we've got lots of options there for you, or you can make it one of your own to show your support for your amateur radio show. Right, now we're going to join Martin, Chris, Frank and Leslie to discuss and generate thoughts about the latest amateur ham radio news, including 33cm satellite award and constructors get ready to compete. As always, hope you enjoy.
Well, hi guys, and welcome to this episode's ICQ podcast, episode 417, and tonight's roundtable for that episode. Tonight, I'm joined by Mr. Chris Howard, M0TCH. Hi, Chris.
And a very good evening, Martin. Good evening, guys. Happy to be on the podcast yet again. Blimey.
Yeah, there's another one. We're getting underway, and yeah, it doesn't seem like 15 years, does it, Chris?
Blimey, it does, yeah.
Now, also, hoping to get me in as much trouble as possible, we have Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL. Hi, Martin.
Dude, you know you get yourself into as much trouble as possible. That would be Mr. Coffee that does that. Typically your third one, but hello.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, no, I've been good on the coffee recently, which is half.
Yeah, right. Right, of course you have. I've run out.
Yeah, I've been on the decaf. Oh, dear. Let's move across the states very quickly to Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Martin and everybody. Great to be here again. Wow. 417, did you say?
417.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, tonight, Mr. Bill Barnes, WC3B, unfortunately can't join us. He's been hijacked by work. Bit naughty, really. But last but not least, backed by popular demands, not working on the railway.
No way. Seriously, who have we got?
We got
give
Leslie.
me some money to go away.
Now we got our Leslie, G0CIB. Hi, Leslie.
I can just imagine my colleagues saying, "Thank God we got rid of him."
No.
Good evening, Martin. Good everyone. Great to be back on again.
Yeah. Great fun. Right, our first news story, and this is no easy task. It's the first Work Tool States certificate awarded for the 33cm band. Now, that's phenomenal. I can't imagine there's that many people on. We had a bit of a discussion about this, and the gentleman's done this with Earth, Moon, Earth. But how many people are doing Earth, Moon, Earth on 33 SEMs in the States? Can't imagine it. What do you think, Frank?
We talked a bit about guessing. Satellite operation is growing, I think, greatly here in the States. Earth, Moon, Earth is not satellite. I suspect there's some overlap in the interest levels, but Earth, Moon, Earth requires equipment that you don't just go down to one of the famous HRO, DX Engineering, Gigapart, some of the other stores. Hey, I need a good Earth, Moon, Earth setup. You have to work on it and niche gear and specialty products and more things like that. So just getting into it is a bit of a task in and of itself. Now, Peter Van Horn, KA6U, is somebody who sort of an Elmer and there that Al Ward, W5LUA, the award recipient or the certificate recipient, praised for that. Now, W5LUA spent over 3 decades, some 38 years, to work all states. He began shortly after 900 megahertz was sort of approved and open. So I'll kind of end it with that. I think those numbers sort of define the gargantuan task that he's made, and I think he's the very first to get this award.
Yeah, I think you're right, Frank, and it's a phenomenal achievement. Now, Leslie, I know you don't do satellites, but this is not satellites. I'm pretty sure you don't do Earth, Moon, Earth, but this is a serious achievement in it from a technical point of view.
I had a look at this, Martin. It's 50 states on 33 centimetres. And talking about some of his equipment, is a ward station consists of a 5-metre dish with a 400 watts of power obtained from 2 300-watt Motorola amplifiers in parallel. His feed is dual polarity patch feed. This, and I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff Frank's been saying. This is not go down to your local ham store and buy this kit off the shelf. This has been, what's the word? There's a special word for it. But it's been put together, and it takes a lot of understanding how to get this stuff working properly. So I think it's great. More power to his elbow. I think it took him 38 years to do, which doesn't surprise me at all. I just make absolutely 38-year quest. Congratulations. And bespoke. Yes, that was the word I was looking for. Bespoke equipment. Yeah, well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah, certainly is. Now, in the UK, amateurs, and I say amateurs, Mr. Rothwell, do not have 33 SEMs as a band we can use.
Yes, we do.
All right. Go on then, off you go.
Well, I'll be honest with you. In most of the world, we have 33 SEMs, but it is assigned to the mobile phone companies because, 33 SEMs, I think, what is it, 902 to 928 megahertz. That, at least here in much of the world, that is a cellular band. But I'm being cheeky. We did have 33 centimeters or thereabouts back in the 80s and 90s because it used to be a CB band, believe it or not. There were 20 channels at 934.
934.
934. I had it. I worked many people around the area, and then they took it away because Ofcom or the radio agency or whoever they were at the time saw the value of 934 megahertz and sold it to Vodafone or Cellnet or whoever it was at the time. But how has he done this? He's done it via Earth, Moon, Earth. That is impressive. We know how difficult it is with sensible kit that we can readily get hold of, but custom build stuff, and to be able to do that for this band is impressive. All 50 states, it says, on 33 centimeters. How many people are involved to do that? Well, how many people are involved, or how many people need to have that? 50, one in each state. But in fact, it's over 38 years. The cheeky side of me wonders how many are the same person but in different states. Is someone traveling, or someone moved to a different state to do it, or just by chance someone has moved and done it? But either way, it's a great achievement, and congratulations, well done for sticking with something. That's definitely I think that's a contest that I think it's worth going in for.
I think you're right. This is a mega achievement for the hobby and quite a good story. Chris, have we left you anything to say on this one?
Well, not really. It's not a band, obviously, I ever use. It's not a band we have here in Region 1. It seems to be a Region 2 thing. But no, it's impressive. Obviously, this guy's put a lot of work into this. It sounds like it's not a band that's particularly commonly used. So, quite who he's found to speak to. This would have been a really difficult task. So, well done.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is a great award he's actually won, and it's one that not everybody's going to get. First person to get it, so congratulations. Move to our next news story, and I came across this. The RSGB have just announced their construction contest for 2024. Well, effectively from now till their AGM, and it's open to obviously members. It'd be interesting to see how many people are actually going to have a go at this, because in fairness, as the winter nights dragging in that they are now, it's dark early. Maybe it's time to fire up the soldering irons and build some of the equipment we wanted to build during the long evenings. Martin, what's your thoughts?
The RSGB are doing something other than just issuing a statement? Wow. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't think you need an excuse to fire up your soldering irons, go out to the workshop and do something. Yeah, it's great. It's a reason to get out and do it, I suppose. But I've never needed someone to send me out to the workshop. I'm quite happy. I've been sitting here with my soldering iron while I've been chatting to you.
Right, I'm going to take that off you then. You're supposed to be paying more attention. What
have I not been paying attention to? Sorry.
No, I'm just catching you out.
Have I done something wrong? Sorry,
No.
No problems at all. You're with us, Martin. We've just wound you up, that's all. I have to cut a lot of this out now. Leslie, what do you think about this construction contest?
Well, I'm not a member of the RSGB anymore, so I'll put that one to bed. My bread and butter, I started off on the workshop, mechanical lathe works, milling works, and making bits and pieces. So that was my sort of starting trade in life. So I love all that stuff and getting involved in the workshop, and I still do. But it has changed. It's gone on to things like software, which I'm glad they've taken that on board. And things will change. Anything that's encouraged people to use their hands, because reading stuff out of the book, it's like really, it just trying to take it in. It doesn't always work. So you got to get your hands dirty. You got to get your hands on components and try and make mistakes, obviously. And that's the way to learn. And if there's a construction contest that encourages it, all for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's sometimes people just need that little push to get things built. But yes, we still need people in the hobby. And we need people in industry that have a radio knowledge, and having a go at building some of this stuff and learning this stuff. It's got to be a worthwhile thing. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think she's great. We all know our hobby's very wide, and some people get involved in contests, or some people get involved in rag chewing, or satellites. So this is one aspect of the hobby that some people enjoy, building kit. And I think, as Leslie was saying, it's great they're including software as part of this now, because that's clearly an important the way things are moving. Software is very much probably the future. So it's good that that's also considered as being construction. So there's six categories: beginners, construction excellence, innovation, software, antennas, and also most creative and/or elegant PCB design. So apparently there's a cash prize for each of those, winner of each of those sections. So that's, I guess, encouragement. And also, it's nice that they're also giving special recognition to those that are under 24, and also those that have just gained their foundation license. They're trying to encourage folks that are
indeed
perhaps just beginning in the hobby to get involved. So, yeah, I mean, there is a beginner section. It even talks about building a kit or something. So you never know if if one of these particular categories hasn't got many submissions, you might find you might do okay if you can. That beginners category, if you are new into the hobby, perhaps build a kit, perhaps do it the best you possibly can, make it look neat, etc., and then submit it. You never know, you might get some recognition. So yeah, I think it's just to be encouraged.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I find it really enjoyable sitting there building something, or soldering a kit, or whatever you do. It should be enjoyment. It's another part of the hobby. Not everybody's going to enjoy it. I appreciate that. Like I don't always enjoy other parts of the hobby, but it's worth knowing about. And if you fancy having a go, have a go. Don't worry about whether if you're really competitive, yes, you want to win it. But if you're not mega competitive, you're still going to get a lot of enjoyment out of just taking part. And I think that's an option. Frank, I know you're an RSGB member. However, this is a UK thing. I'm assuming you could put an entry in if you wanted, but in the States, you do a lot of this sort of thing, I believe.
I do certainly try to, and I've been tinkering with radio since I was 10 and built a couple of broadcast stations by the time I was 20. So, yeah, I came into amateur radio late in the game, but I've been around radio my whole life, and building antennas in particular has been a bent. So, today I have a decent RF workbench and was out actually doing some work today that I'll talk about when we do our roundup on what you've been doing. So I'm very sort of engaged with a lot of building things. I don't build a lot of kits, not anything against kits, but I do a little design from the very beginning myself, and I get a little more enjoyment there. Let me make a general comment about the role that this plays, whether it's in the UK or anywhere, because Martin, as you said, I guess if you're a member abroad, you can certainly participate. We often hear in everyday conversations, oh, amateur radio is going to hell in a handbasket. You get in contest, it's 5-9 next. There's no conversation. Well, there's not much room for a rag chew. Well, gee, everybody's doing FTA. You get all this blasé rhetoric about what's wrong with the hobby. And I would submit that some, not all, but some, if not most, hams who are at a point where things are not as exciting anymore, if they would take the time to build a kit, that's a little bit of a hand-holding way to get into it, or build anything, whether it's just a fairly common dipole. The craft that some of the other presenters have talked about, using your hands, doing things, and coming out with a product, I think that has the potential to reinvigorate hams. I've seen other hams who build things, modify things, repair things, come away with a sense of, yeah, I'm going to get engaged in whatever. So I'm very positive about this construction competition. Some might be put off by competition. Hey, mine's not very good. But here's the reality of a competition. I've been in charge of competitions in academia. You're captured by your submissions. You don't know what's going to be submitted. So yours might be first prize material. Who knows? So I'm very positive about this. I think that there's a little money at the end of the rainbow for someone. It's an award named after G3VA. I think that's very good. Special recognition for amateurs under the age of 24, I think is a very neat thing because, as you said, Martin, getting anyone, but particularly younger people, into building things can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, there's two things I think about building. Number of times I've built simple little receivers or transceivers, and the beauty of it is when you power it up for the first time and you actually hear something. That is an experience that you just can't. If you've never done it, it's an experience that you're going to have sometime because it really puts a smile from ear to ear. And number two, build things that are useful to you. Not everything has to be really complex, build things that you want, even if you don't want to do the contest. But have a go at building things that make your life easier. I mean, for argument's sake, and this is really, really simple device, but I have a 3.5mm jack plug, and on it is an on-off switch, a wired in to an on-off switch, right? Plugs in the side of my FT817 because I don't have a Morse key or whatever, but I can put it in the paddle, and when I'm tuning up, I just flick the switch. I don't have to hold the paddle down or the key down to tune up. So that's something really, really stupidly simple, but it works for me. I find it very useful when I'm setting up an ATU. So don't be put off. It doesn't have to be as simple as what I've just said, but have a go at something. Right. Well, let's move to our next news story. Frank, I'm going to get you to go first on this one because it is an American-based story, and we've been covering this now for about 3 months, how the FCC are going to action to remove the symbol rate restrictions. And it looks like they've actually got around to doing it, Frank, haven't they?
They absolutely have, and it's something that I want Martin Rothwell to cue his sound effects, because I am going to heap high praise upon the American Radio Relay League for this. Go, Martin. And now, let me just say that I've been critical of ARRL for specific things. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't be. Yeah, I should be. I'm a life member. I'm a volunteer flunky. And I think we improve our volunteer organizations by constructive criticism. At the same time, we have an obligation to praise things where praise is worth it. Here in the U.S., we have a divided houses of Congress that disagree a bit. Here in the national news, we had one senator threaten to fight a witness before the U.S. Senate yesterday. Oh, gee, say it isn't so.
Frank, I saw that, and I rolled up with laughter.
Well, he was a former professional wrestler, as I heard it. But beside that point, we have had an even number of commissioners on the Federal Communications Commission by party lines. And so we couldn't get certain things done, no matter what your beliefs were. They were stalemated. And so now we finally have that fifth and deciding commissioner. And the head of the FCC, commission chair, put forth this and got it through. Where the ARRL, now it wouldn't have happened without what happened in the Senate and getting that commissioner. So that no matter what the ARRL had been trying to do for a couple of years, that was a logjam. Well, once that logjam got done, the ARRL had managed their lobbying effort like the old story of the three bears. Their porridge was just right. This got approved. We're joining the modern world, I realize, with this, but it is a move forward, and the commissioner says we're going to innovate with amateur radio, and here is step one.
Well, that's good news, Frank. Good news. Chris, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I know we've talked about this before. It's good that it's now finally actually happening, isn't it? I mean, this thing that's stalling innovation is finally, it looks like it's finally going to go away. So no idea why originally it was based on symbol rate, but it looks like finally it's going. So it's great. It's happening.
Yeah, I think you're right. Martin, what's your thoughts?
I read this, and I'm not going to pretend I even understand this to any great detail. I mean, I see symbol rate as, is that the same as board rate? And I never really understood why these kind of restrictions exist in the first place, and not just here, but anywhere. You have restrictions things, but whatever the signal is, if it's within the band and it's not interfering with anybody, I don't really see what the issue is, as long as your RF output on the air is not interfering with anything that anything else that it shouldn't be interfering with. Then I don't really get the thing. I mean, I know there are lots of other things that do interfere that people do that use a lot less bandwidth. But either way, obviously it's been lobbied for a while. People want to get this removed, and it looks like the ARRL have done a good job here.
Yeah, I agree with you. Leslie, have we left you anything else to say on this one?
Well, a couple of things. I think the ruling as it was akin to cars travelling at 6 miles an hour with somebody with a red flag in front. This is 2024 now, and I suspect, I'm not absolutely certain of this, but I suspect the speed rates were probably based upon the old teleprinter speeds. The baudit rate with the teletype and all that stuff. You know what? Just tear them up. We're in a modern world, and once you get rid of these antiquated rules, and then innovation will go, and you'll see speeds going bang, 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 bang. This is what we do. This is how quickly we can do it. So, as far as I'm concerned, a great move.
Well, I think you're right, but you did raise a point of people walking in front of a car with a red flag and all that sort of thing.
I did, yes.
You did. Well, in London, we've had the speed dropped from 30 mile an hour in a built-up area to 20. It's only a matter of time, Leslie, and we're having somebody walk with a
Have
red
I
flag.
said something that's going to set it off?
Now, come on, Martin, you know how you deal with the speed limits. You just speed up for the cameras. That way you'll just be a blur.
Yeah, well, hey, if you really want to progress this further, we could invite Mrs. B, but we do have a clean
Enough tape to
rating.
record that.
Well, you what?
Have we got enough tape to record that?
No. She is very upset about people wandering around with their heads buried in their phones and walking off pavements in front of her, but that's another story. Right. I think I better move on quickly. Okay. Nice news story this. We have some nice ones this episode, but a new satellite distance record of 5,645 kilometres. That's a phenomenal distance, that, in my opinion. Martin, what's your thoughts?
So I put it into she who shall not be named because she'll light up blue and then start talking to me. For context, for those of us that don't understand kilometres, 3,447 miles. This is apparently on SO50. I can't remember if that's an SSB or an FM satellite. Either way, it's impressive. It's a nice big distance. It's not that hard to work satellites with a bit of kit. Just takes a little bit of getting your head around to make things work. He was located in JN14CH, while Scott was in FN43RH. That is KE9AJ and MI0ILE. So MI0 is going to be, Northern Ireland? KE, I'm guessing, where's KE? Is that America? Somewhere like that. Apologies if I've got that wrong. But yeah, it's an impressive for a satellite. And if that's not incentive to get your arrow antenna out, then why not? It is possible.
It certainly is. Yeah, certainly is. Chris, your thoughts on this one?
Yes, again, another record which is phenomenal. It's only just beaten, isn't it? Only just beaten the previous record, but that said, still, it's still beating the record, so still very impressive that someone can make that sort of contact over that sort of distance. So yeah, well done to the guys.
Yeah. I mean, these records just go on, and which proves that the hobby is alive and people are actually still doing work and improving things. Frank, what's your thoughts?
It's an amazing record. It's for those here in the States who follow the traditional United Kingdom King's Foot rule. That's 3,508 miles is the distance. So that's an amazing number, and it's just I'm delighted that there are people who are chasing these. It's a nice international story. With something like this, you almost just have to involve one country and another, to have that kind of distance for the most part. So good on Jérôme Lecoyer, F4DXV, for another record.
Yeah. And let's say, just a nice story, which I thought we bring to our listeners, because proving that, there's more out there going on than sometimes we realise. And, when people are breaking records, that's a great one. Move to our next news story. And I'm going to behave myself on this one, because I'm sure Mr. Durant, who lives in Germany, is going to say to me, "Why didn't you get me on? It's a German story." But they always seem to come up on the weeks Ed's not with us. But in Germany, they have an easier way to report RFI, which sounds extremely good to me. Leslie, do you want to go first on this one?
Oh, am I going to open a can of worms up on this one, Martin?
I hope so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad that reports can be done online, and I think that's a positive way forward, because they should be done online today. It's 2023. It's 2023, guys. Come on, do things online. But in this country, It's slightly different because, I mean, I've had radio, when I've given talks, people have said about Ofcom and all the rest of it. I'm not going to get into the Ofcom issue, but what I would say is that yes, you can show me interference on the radio, but how many UK amateurs actually put a letter into Ofcom and in writing complain? And the answer to that is very, very few indeed. So as far as the authorities are concerned, we don't have an issue. We don't have an issue because people don't put radio amateurs don't put complaints in. Should there be something like this here? Yeah, I think it would be a good idea, and hopefully, if there was, maybe radio amateurs would actually put in and complain as opposed to just whinging. Thank you.
Yes, it's another one of those somebody else's problem. Yeah, it's just another one of those somebody else's problems, Leslie, isn't it? So there you go.
Indeed.
Frank, what are your thoughts on this one?
Let me contrast it to the States. Here in the U.S., cellular vendors like AT&T, I think Verizon, although I'm not a Verizon customer, and a few others, have an app for you to drop a point on a map or use my GPS and figure out where I'm at and say, I don't have good coverage here, or I have no coverage here. And that's a crowdsourced way for a commercial enterprise to figure out, hey, we might, we've got people going here and we need another tower. Wow, isn't it progressive in Germany that there's a way to report radio frequency interference in a somewhat similar way? Doesn't sound like there's an app yet, but hey, maybe that's coming. I've admired the DARC in Germany on the issue of RFI for a number of years. They had a project a few years ago, and I corresponded with one of their amateurs who was leading it to develop hardware, and I'm sure there was some software with it, but hardware to be deployed around the country to actually measure RF noise and therefore collect data and report it. I tried to get the American Radio Relay League to put together a committee or some group that would follow suit, maybe beg and borrow from DARC to do it, and it's sort of fallen on deaf ears. And yet one of the very, very top problems that American amateurs who operate on HF say is noise. eham.net just finished one of their little surveys that's kind of a cattle call, crowdsourced surveys of how bad is RFI, and people could rate it all the way to where I can't operate or it's non-existent. What a progressive move for those in Germany to create this particular strategy, Martin. Nothing but high praise from me.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Frank. Now, I've been to Germany a number of times. Very nice people when we go out there. Always make me very welcome. Yeah, lovely country. But Germany is a lot different to the UK and the States. The Germans like a rule. And if the rule is you report something or you spot it and you report it, they do it. They obey the rules. Whereas over here, as Leslie would have told me before,
we'd still be drinking
biscuits, wouldn't we? So,
yes.
while we're thinking about if we could be bothered to do it. Yeah, I think you're great on Germany on this one. Martin, what's your thoughts?
We know where the interference is coming. It comes from Ed's burner on his big illegal CB. I'm kidding. I really am kidding. The stupid thing is we do know where a lot of the interference is coming from. It's coming from the same place that the interference is coming from in the UK and around the rest of the world, and it's all from non-type approved devices, typically labelled CE, but with a different spacing, i.e. China Electronics. Doesn't that, they talk about this, are they going to crack down on those devices? How? Have you any idea how many are already out there? You can say, okay, I've found a device in this house that is causing me some interference. You can report it and potentially, maybe they'll do something with that. But how many of those devices are already out there? I'm all for having an easier way to report things. I'm all for the regulators at BNetzA. Benetz, however it's pronounced. I apologise to German people for getting that wrong. But, is it not just wait. Have they not just missed that boat? It is out there. You're going to have to deal with the stuff and just try and stop more coming in. It's a nice idea, but I think you're 10 years too late.
I think the phrase we use here is trying to sort it out after the horse has bolted.
Yes.
But the other thing is, and with the general public, and most of the general public, they are in a situation, if they can't hear the noise personally, if it doesn't affect them, they don't care.
Yep.
That's something that we've got to get past.
Martin, I think that one of the issues is that, yes, you're absolutely right. They don't see the issue. And also the products, way customers look at things is they really look at it in terms of cost.
Yep.
And that's a driving factor. So if they can get something better value, and that, to use that term, but there's no filtering in it, and the capacitors and inductors that should be there were taken out and not put on the board, whatever, providing they don't have to pay for it, hey, they don't see the problem.
True, very true. Chris, have we left you anything to say on this one?
No, I think so. I think this is actually quite interesting. I mean, I was thinking, if I were to report RFI here in the UK, I'm not sure what to do. I guess I can Google it and look at what the process is, but it's not obvious. Whereas it sounds like the Germans are trying to make that as easy as possible, particularly around, like I say, around devices that perhaps aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So sounds like they've tried to streamline things, make things a little bit easier in terms of reporting. So that's a good thing. Bit of a shame Ed's not on this episode. I'm sure Ed's listening now thinking, I've got some thoughts on this. So it's a shame Ed's not on this episode, but I'm sure he'll have some comments on this, either via email or on the next episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's I'm not knocking the German people. Great. They've taken a step forward. Good on them. And I think it'll work in Germany. I think other parts of the world, we've got to educate better so that people understand that interference is there. And even if you can't hear it, you've got to do something about it, because it will interfere with all sorts of other things. So there you go. Right, moving to our last news story. You slipped this one in quickly, Chris. It's a really, really nice story right as we were going to record. Mr. Steve Hartley, G0FUW, has just made an announcement, hasn't he?
He has, he put on Twitter earlier, I think it's actually a couple of days ago, that I'm very happy to report that Stuart, now M0KKZ, is the 1,000th student from the Bath-based distance learning to receive a pass at the full level of the RSGB exams. An amazing achievement by a diverse range of students and tutors. Proudest punch to be involved. Wow, just wow. So, Steve, congratulations. I know this is really your baby. Steve was my tutor. I'm one of those thousands. So, thank you very much. I think I did my exam about 10 or so years ago, but yeah, very, 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 very impressive achievement to get that many people to get their full license. So extremely good news.
It is. Martin, what's your thoughts on this one?
I don't have much to add. Congratulations. I know it's difficult for people to get their license sometimes. I know there are not as many options available as perhaps there were. I know that the Bath distance learning has made life a lot easier for people to do that. As Chris mentioned, obviously he did that, and as one of those statistics. So well done. It proves what can be done when you put your mind to it.
Certainly does. Leslie, this wasn't around when you and I did ours, but it's obviously done well for a lot of people.
Well, I remember being told from a certain quarter that not to bother with the internet as it wasn't going anywhere. So that was many, many years ago. All I can say is well done, Steve, and well done to all the students for all their hard work. 1,000 got through, and that's an achievement. Well done to everyone. Big thumbs up.
I must also add, it's not just Steve, there's lots of other people that support and other tutors
Absolutely.
as well. So well done
if I've missed anyone out, I apologise.
Just sort of add that in, that's all, yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Without the infrastructure and people helping out and putting these lessons together, it doesn't work. They've put it together, and they've got great result from this. So I'm going to say again, big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, and it's not an easy achievement to do the full license, especially when you're doing it remotely. So I know from what you were saying, Chris, you get a lot of help from your tutor and the group, and they set your homework and all those sort of things. But when you achieve it, you're on cloud nine. Frank, I know this is a UK-based story, but you must have heard of the Bath-based learning, distance learning group, I'm sure.
Yes, and very positive about it. And this is one of several bright spots that the RSGB has been involved with, whether it's by themselves or with other groups. Just to ignore the distance learning element is it's just ignorant. I mean, I don't mean that to be offensive, but that's the only word I can use to describe it. And we're over here in the States doing some of that. We're also doing, of course, the testing part of that to do that remotely. And when you think about all that as a series of behaviors, just like any consumer group, how do you get them from point A to point B? Point A, introducing amateur radio to them, hopefully engaging their interest. In point B, having them become licensed and then become active in the hobby. We need to use all the tools there. And clearly, distance learning is an important tool, as witnessed by the other presenters. So that's just terrific. The 1,000th student, quite a milestone.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, here's the next 2,000, Steve. We wish you every success for you and your team. And hopefully I'll catch up with Steve fairly soon. I've promised to do that. But I often see Steve at various events. So great news, Steve. Right, that concludes our news stories. I normally go right to left across my list of people on my sheet to make sure I get everybody in. But I'm going to do it the other way round today. I'm going left to right. Chris, what have you been up to since we last spoke?
Well, not a huge amount of reg. I've been ridiculously busy over the last few weeks. I'm afraid I don't think I've actually picked a microphone up, apart from possibly once or twice on the digital talk group. Doing a few club things. So this weekend, and I'm sure you mentioned later, Martin, is if you're listening to this podcast, it's the day of release. It's the Cats Bazaar. Cats is one of our local sister clubs, and we'll be helping out. I know, Martin, you'll be there on the stand with Colin, and I'm sure you mentioned it anyway. So we're going to be helping out there. A few admin things to the club, and getting a few things lined up for next year for speakers, that sort of thing. And Martin and I both can a little more about the RSGB. We had our renewal through for our affiliated membership recently, and to renew is not a simple process. The paperwork that comes through seems to want to either to get sent to a direct debit or to fill in a form with your credit card details and then post it to them, which I think is probably not very secure and also not exactly a modern way of doing things. I did manage to eventually find, but it's not easy, a way of renewing online, but it's not at all signposted on their paperwork they send through the post. You have to sort of dig it out, and you can sort of do it through their shop, but it's certainly not obvious, shall we say. So little dig at the RSGB there. But that's kind of it from me, Martin.
Martin, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been trying to ring the RSGB to renew the club's membership. And again, anyone from the RSGB listening, the funny noise your phone makes just occasionally when someone wants to phone you up and give you some money, it does stop when you pick it up and say hello. It's not rocket science. Telephones have been around for quite a long time, and I don't know, maybe you should list the frequency you're monitoring. Maybe that would have been an easier way. But yeah, Chris is right. Trying to renew for the club, that didn't happen. I got very frustrated. I left various messages at the RSGB on every number that I could find and didn't get anything from them. So I'm very much in favour of just not bothering with the RSGB going forward, because I don't think they have any purpose anymore. But that's my own opinion. Anyway, so what else have I been doing? Well, the bands have been very quiet recently. I have, of course, been on the DMR talk group. I've actually got it switched on here, but it's been quite a while we've been chatting. I've had quite a few chats with quite a few new people actually on there. It's been interesting, or new to me anyway, people I've not spoken to. So that's been pretty good, having some new people to chat to on there. I've also had some funny hours as well at the moment, just with work and what's going on. I've sort of been pottering in the workshop in the evening, and some of the bands have been particularly quiet. And I've drifted over to 11 meters just to see what was going on there, just out of interest on the old CB bands. And I was amazed. There were about, there were like 15 channels were in use, and I thought that's unheard of. And of those 15 channels, probably 12 were decent conversations that you wouldn't associate with CB. And I was quite impressed. I had a bit of fun on there. And today I have literally worked right around the world, or nearly right around the world, with a legal 4-watt CB, because SSB has been absolutely open. The legal SSB, not the free band, but the UK legal SSB CB has been absolutely wide open. Trinidad, all across America, right into Italy. It's incredible today what's been going on. So it's rekindled my love of that band. It's incredible. But you tune up to 10 meters or to 12 meters, and it's silent. You call CQ and no one's there. Other than that, I think that's probably most of the things I've been working. There might be something else, but that's most of the things I've been working on so far.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds like you've been having fun. And it's always worth having a look somewhere else, see what's going on. I remember I was with the Scouts a couple of weeks back at Jota, and I was showing one of the lads a scanner, my handheld scanner, and he was absolutely taken with it. So, there's always things to see and listen to. Leslie, what have you been up to?
Well, as you probably know already, Martin, I'm a member of the Silverthorne Radio Club in Chingford. So we had a bit of a round-table discussion the other day, and from that we put together a program of talks. And I've been sort of, what's the word? I'm just trying to think of the right word. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a talk on cable losses, how to work them out very simply. It's one of the methods I come across using 2 meters. So I'm going to put that together. And the other thing I've been working on today is I've had my old ICOM 725, one of my favourite little radios, and I've had it an awful long time, and I thought, no, that needs a bit of TLC, all the contacts, and just give them a spray clean and sort that out. And I've got it absolutely gleaming today. So come the next camp, that'll be fit and raring to go. But I've been pottering about on that for a little while, making sure it's all good. But like I said, it's ready to go now. So I'm really pleased with getting that done. That's about it, Martin.
Well, you're enjoying yourself, and renovating the radio is always fun. So that's a good one. Frank, what have you been up to?
Been tinkering in the workshop and RF bench, doing a little planning with our libraries and getting a talk ready and buying equipment. So I'll enumerate that quickly. I finalized the portable Delta loop, and I've got the ability to tune one after settling on a 4-to-1 Ballon, 2 feet above the ground. It'll tune from 80 to 10 meters. I worked some people in the Illinois QSO party with my FX4CR QRP rig. I was operating 20 watts, a little above technical QRP standards for proof of concept. Got 5.9 from a little loop sitting on the ground. I was pleased with that. And it occurred to me that the N7DCC open source ATU design that's been used by many of the Chinese companies and pillaring us through Amazon and eBay, and I have several of them. It occurred to me that why not try an ATU, given the small size and most of them operate on batteries, right at the feed point. So I put together a prototype of that Delta loop that's ready for testing. And thank goodness we're actually getting some rain here as we record this. We've had a drought circumstance for a couple of months. So once it dries up a bit, I'll get that out to a local park and do some testing. So the Delta loop's working well. I've started on the design of several monoband Yagis, the first of which is a 2 meter or 20 meter 2-element Yagi based on 17-foot whips. I'll do some others that'll probably be 3-element for 15, 10, and 6. And I want to design them so each one will break down and go into a larger PVC pipe. If you think of an architect with plans, or an engineer with some parts in a protective PVC pipe case, that's what I've got in mind. So it'll all go portable. You take it out, put it up, check the tuning. It's good to go. Break it down, put it back in. We'll see how that works out. I'm having fun doing it. And I'm also designing a 12-volt portable antenna rotator that'll have full clockwise, counterclockwise movement and a speed control. You may want to go fast and then slow down and tune in using your S meter. Now, that's fine and good, but we need to know which way it's pointing. And so I've got a Arduino Uno with an add-on magnetometer hat that'll monitor the bearings. You can pick that up as a local Wi-Fi access point with a phone or a tablet or something. You can track the bearings that the antenna is pointed in. All that powered by a small 12-volt battery that's in the box on the rotator. The only wire coming down, of course, is the coax to your radio. So having some fun in my workbench and in my shop, and we'll see how that goes. I'm planning my first SMART activation. SMART is the acronym I created a few years ago for Saturday morning amateur radio time at a public library here in Madison, Mississippi. Now, I'll announce the details of that activation for the public at k4fmh.com and social media, formerly known as Twitter. So hope to work some of our listeners on that activation. And it's all about trying to draw Saturday morning patrons of the local public library over to see what this weird stuff is going on in the garden with a gazebo. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be giving a talk, Martin, on the ICQ Podcast Digital Voice Talk Group to the Vicksburg, Mississippi Amateur Radio Club in January. Now, that's in the Central Time Zone. I'll announce the date and time of that club meeting and send it to Colin for the ICQ Podcast newsletter for those that would like to be part of a live demonstration through the ICQ Podcast Digital Voice Talk Group for that club. I think that would really excite some of the folks here in the States. So watch for the email that Colin and Martin send out in December from the podcast. And finally, you can't resist getting a good deal, right? So I picked up a 2-month-old Jagu X6100 QRP transceiver from another ham, John, K4ADZ, at a very good price. He still had the screen protector on it. Now, I have an IC705, an FX4CR, and RS918 clone of the Chris M0NKA QRP rig, in addition to this X6100. So take that into consideration when I say this. I will have to say I'm very impressed with the X6100's performance. I've worked stations all over the Midwest and the U.S. on 10-watt sideband into an attic dipole antenna. I must say, very, very impressed. Seen none of the real faults, maybe a couple of birdies around, but they haven't been a problem. So I'm still using it, testing it. I'll take it out portable soon. Now, John, K4ADZ, was a real pleasure to conduct the transition with. He had several add-on accessories. I know he follows our friend Thomas Witherspoon, K4SWL, because in the case that he included with the transceiver, he had a Write in the Rain notebook for logging. That's one of Thomas's trademarks. So John was clearly very happy that I was pleased with the transaction. And I highlight all this about John because that's something that the ham radio hobby benefits from in these transactions. When everybody's above board, both parties are happy, and you kind of go away with a good feeling about it. So, Martin, that's about what I've been up to.
Well, you've been doing a lot more than me, Frank, and it sounds like you have actually had a lot of fun. Well, my side, I've done some operating on 2 meters and 70 SEM still. Don't tend to do much HF, my location, and I haven't been getting out and about much. So, been doing a bit of decorating at home, which I need like a hole in the head. I really do not enjoy doing decorating, but that's another story. Haven't been on the talk group as much as I'd like, but I have worked with quite a few people on it. And did manage to catch up with my friend Phil, VK6ADF, this afternoon as we record this for our usual long chat. And that was really pleasurable. The mobile rig in my car stopped working about a week ago, and I couldn't see any reason why. I didn't have a voltmeter with me at the time, but I had heard that power pole connectors, if they're not exercised every now and again, they tend to go high resistance. So I unplugged it and plugged it back together. That didn't cure it, and I was, left it until this afternoon. And we had a dry afternoon, so I went out to the car, found the radio, put the power onto the radio, and measured at the power pole connectors, and there was the voltage there. And I thought, oh no, don't say the rig's gone wrong. I don't really want to have to start repairing a rig. Fortunately, I plugged the power pole connector in and out 3 or 4 times. It's obviously cleaned the connectors, and the rig's up and working again. So that's a nice, easy fix. I did read somewhere that power pole connectors do need to be exercised every now and again just to keep the contacts clean. So, you might have a similar sort of thing. Have just put a new shack computer in. I was going to transfer everything off the old shack computer onto the new one, but I decided to bite the bullet and do a clean installation. So, yep, they've got a clean installation underway. But I've still got the old shack computer, which I can remote desktop on if I want any software off it that I haven't taken off yet. What else have I been up to? I dropped my YSF hotspot. Those of you who've been to see us at rallies or wherever we've been, and we've been showing the digital hotspot. I've got a Raspberry Pi bolted on the back end of a little 5-inch touchscreen display, and it displays the web page of PiStar. Now, Andy Taylor doesn't recommend you do this, but I've been a naughty boy and done it, and it works. But there is reasons why he says don't do it. But I dropped it, and 2 of the lugs on the display broke off, and I ended up having to glue them back on again so they stands up nicely. So I've glued them back on again. Then I was the other morning, put a call out on YSF, nothing. And I'm looking at the dashboard, and there's just nothing going through. But the dashboard's up, and I can control the PiStar module. Anyway, wandered upstairs to the shack, had a look at it, and sure enough, the DVM board was half off the back of the PiStar. So plugged that back in, nice easy fix. And like Frank says, I'm investigating doing smart radio in the UK. Little bit of problems at the moment with it, but I'm investigating if we can do it. So that's another thing that's in the pipeline potentially. So all in all, not a tremendous amount from me, but hopefully I'll have a bit more time. And I will be at the Cats Bazaar with Chris, Edmund, Mrs. B, and Colin at the weekend when this podcast goes out. So if you're listening to it early and you're in South London, or you spotted one of our announcements we put out on the interweb, then hopefully we'll see you there. So that's all I've been up to. Right, all's left for me to do now is to thank the guys for helping me tonight, and I think we've had a good one. I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Howard, M0TC8.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problems. I'd like to thank Mr. Martin Rothwell, M0SGL.
It's been fun. See you next time.
Yeah, no problems. I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Howell, K4FMH.
Always loads of fun. Thanks for the invitation, Martin.
Yeah, no problems, Frank. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Mr. Leslie Butterfield, G0CIB.
Have I stirred it up tonight? Thank you for inviting me, Martin. It's been great as always.
No problems at all, mate. No problems at all. Okay, I'll say 73 to you guys, and we'll move on with the podcast. 73.
73.
Cheerio.
Keep your amateur ham radio podcast advert free by donating less than a length of coax. Visit www.icqpodcast.com/donate now. For all the news, links and information, visit www.icqpodcast.com.
And now it's time to have a look at the news in brief from me, Colin M6BOY. We start with news here that the FCC has extended the window to receive comments on changes on the 16-metre band. The deadline is now set for the end of November on the 28th. The FCC would like to make changes to the band that would allocate 15 kilohertz of continuous bandwidth between 5351.5 and 5366.5 kilohertz for amateur radio on a secondary basis. The proposed new band would have a limit of 15 watts EIRP, and this is for general, advanced and extra hams. Presently they have 5 channels available to them on a secondary basis, and they're permitted to an effective power of 100 watts PEP. So these are the changes that they're working on there, and as always, the FCC are open to comment about whether this is a good or bad proposal in your opinion for the amateur radio hobby. Now, I just wanted to bring alert to you the expedition that's going to be running at the end of the month, and you might like to get the new Providence Island into your logbook. Well, Brian ND3F will be active as C6 Alpha Quebec from the island. He'll be operating now on the 25th and 26th of November. It's a single operator, all band, low power mode he'll be operating, so keep an ear out for that there. Fans of SDRplay will be happy to find out that they've further extended their reach into Australia by announcing a new reseller and authorised repair centre. Guy from VK Radio has been added to the team of Worldwide Reseller Network, and he's knowledgeable for many years of working with the RSP family and his close working relationship as well with customers across Australia. So we welcome Guy to the group for SDRplay fans and wish him all the success. Right, well now we head over to our feature this episode, and this feature is on YouTube channels for ham radio. As always, hope you enjoy.
And now what you've all been waiting for, this episode's feature from the ICQ podcast. Hi guys, for this episode's feature I wanted to try something different. We were talking at the club the other week and about YouTube and good places to go and look at really educational videos that are well worth at least a second watch, if not to keep forever. Now, I have a number of YouTube channels I watch. Not all are amateur radio, but I'm only going to talk about the ham radio or amateur radio ones this time. And if you haven't come across these, then it's well worth a look. And you know, as the long nights are coming in, you might want to watch something a bit different than what's on the telly or what the family are watching on the telly. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you a few of my favourites and why I watch them, not just they're good. The number one in my book is Mr. Carlson's Lab. Now, Paul Carlson, he produces probably about a couple of videos a month for standard YouTube viewers. And in fairness, I don't think I've ever watched one of his videos without coming away learning something. His videos are very, very instructive. They tell you why he's doing these things, and equally, as I say, I learn something from every one of his videos he's ever produced. Often they run for about 45 minutes to an hour, and certainly very, very educational in a nice way. You can sit back, enjoy it and go, yeah, I got that. And I think he's one of the favourites for a lot of people who are on YouTube. Secondly, if you feel that you want a bit more, then Paul runs a Patreon system where, all right, for a few dollars a month, I think it's a minimum of $2 a month, maybe more if you want, you can join his Patreon group. And on the Patreon group, he also shows you the circuits he's designed, and you can then go away and make them yourself. And there's some really clever circuits in the Patreon system. Things like a capacitor checker that runs on 27 volts, that's far more accurate than, say, these old-fashioned ones that used to put 600 volts across a capacitor to see if it had leakage. So that's very interesting. Lots of other things, sniffer probes, and various testers. Great circuit information there as well, and it gives you all the designs. So for a few pound a month, that one's well worth a few pounds. Right, my number 2, and I only came across this about a month ago, but it's blown my mind. Electronics for the Inquisitive Experimenter. Now, that doesn't sound ham radio, but the gentleman, Ralph Gable, he explains lots of things. He's a very, very clever guy, far, far, far cleverer than me, but it's really, really interesting, and he doesn't sort of talk down to you. He explains lots of things that I thought really interest me. Things like accuracy and things like that of piece of test equipment, and he's also done all sorts of things like building antennas as well. So very, very interesting website. Electronics for the Inquisitive Experimenter. Okay, the next one, I'm going to give you this phonetically. India Mike Sierra Alpha for India Guy. This is a very interesting website where the gentleman pretty much releases one video a day. So you're very unlucky not to get one a day from him. And they're short videos, very interesting. You kind of learn something from each one of them. And I think even if it's a subject you're not particularly interested in, watch it, because you will find something of knowledge that will go in the back of the mind and help you later. So, once again, this gentleman fiddles with all sorts of electronics and tests all sorts of components and things like that. Really interesting, I find it. Moving on, this is one that our Edmund M1MRB pointed me in the direction of. It's a psych channel called Ringway Manchester by Lewis. And Lewis is an amateur radio operator, but he's also big into shortwave listening and various listening, and very, very knowledgeable about all sorts of strange radio systems that seem to be happening in the UK and around the world. And points out some very, very interesting bits and pieces along the way. So, once again, not purely amateur radio, but quite an interesting one just to sit back and watch. And he produces one or two a week, which makes it quite interesting. Now, going forward, the RSGB in the UK produce various videos that go out on YouTube. At the moment, they're running a lot of the videos they produced at the RSGB convention this year, but there are a lot of others, and you can find people talking on all sorts of subjects on our hobby. So it's quite nice if you want to find out more about a certain subject on our hobby, on how things and who's doing what. I think quite a fun one to do. Now, one of my favourite ones, and this is not just because it's technically good, but the comments are funny as well at times, is a gentleman, the channel's called The Radio Mechanic, and the gentleman's a lovely guy. he's very, very talented on repairing things, including cases and all that sort of thing. And he takes you through, when he renovates something, he takes you through how it's all done and why it's done and all those sort of things. But you will find he'll say something and he'll maybe correct it with the text below. And some of the comments in the text below do make you giggle. You know, he'll say so-and-so, so-and-so, and underneath it will say silly old fool, you know, or something like that. And I find it quite entertaining. But he's still very, very worth watching, and very, very interesting guy. Unfortunately, he spends half his life in the States and the other half, I think, in Thailand. So you tend to get a burst of videos from him every so often, and then he goes quiet for a long period of time. But interesting stuff in his archive. Another one I came across and I still like very much is a channel called Electronic Notes. Now, Electronic Notes was produced by a gentleman called Ian Paul. And Ian Paul writes, or used to write, a lot of radio books. And I was very, very lucky about, 10, 12 years ago of actually meeting Ian Paul and interviewing him for the podcast. Really nice gentleman. I went round to see him at his house, and we had quite a long chat. And yeah, he's producing YouTube videos at the moment, and very, very good quality ones on various subjects. You know, sometimes it's a Morse key, it might be on Morse, it might be the next one might be on op amps or something like that. But it's interesting stuff. And then the last one I'm going to give you today, because I'm giving you quite a lot to bend your ear, unfortunately. But I do like W2AEW, Alan's website, Alan Walk's website. Alan gives you some tremendous tips, and he has been doing for well over 10 years. Some very, very interesting videos. When you watch them, very well produced. Always learn something from Alan's, and thoroughly enjoy them. Now, I know this is a bit strange, me talking about YouTube videos, but in many ways, you know, I thought, let's do something different on this podcast feature, and I'll tell you some of the places that I find very, very interesting. I hope this was of interest, and I'm sure you all know a lot more, or other ones that like your fire, but hopefully I've shared some good ones with you guys that you may thoroughly enjoy. I also look forward to any feedback from you guys on this one. So I hope this was of use.
The ICQ Podcast Digital Voice Talk Group. Your digital home away from home. Worldwide.
Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for episode 417 of your ICQ Amateur Radio podcast. We're really hoping that here on the day of the release on Sunday the 19th of November, you'll be joining us at Cat's Bazaar in South London, and would love to see as many of you as possible at that rally. And as I say, it'll be great there. We're going to have a team of us there. As I say, Smurf, myself, Chris Howard, Ed and Spice, I believe, are definitely going, so you can catch up with us there and see us at that show. Now, as always, we'd like to thank our listeners who provide us with the subscription base for helping us pay our way and keeping, your show advert free. It's one of the very few podcasts out there, I think, nowadays that doesn't take advertising. So your support helps us do that there. If you found value from today's show, the great thing to do is you go to icqpodcast.com/donate. Whatever you feel the show's worth to you, pop that to us, and it'd be greatly appreciated when you pop that into our running costs and help us out for now. Now, we'd like to thank Chris, Mike 0 Tango Charlie Hotel, Martin, Mike 0 Sierra Golf Lima, Frank, Kilo 4 Foxtrot Mike Hotel, and Leslie, Golf 0 Charlie India Bravo, for taking part in the news roundtable, and many thanks, guys, for taking part with us there. Now, Martin's not with me doing the end of the show today, but don't panic. Mrs. B has been well looked after. I'm currently in London and staying with Martin and Mrs. B, and she's been given a fine box of artisan chocolate chip, white chocolate chip and lemon cookies to go have a cup of tea, which I'm sure she'll appreciate. And we're going to sit down and have that cup of tea, certainly a coffee for myself, as we render the last parts of the show and get it ready for your listening persuasion. All that's left for me to do is to bid you 73s. Hope I see you at the Cat's Bazaar, but if not, always feel free to reach out to us, and we'll look forward to catching up again all very, very soon. 73s all.